Well, good afternoon. It is really not Tuesday, August 25th, but I forgot to hit the record button on Tuesday, August 25th, and so Scott has mercifully agreed to re-record his presentation with me today, and so we are grateful if you are listening to this recording online for you to be with us today. Today's topic is dusting off your architectural review committee, and we are taking a little break this month from our insurance series, and grateful to have all of our Utah and Idaho friends with us for this important topic on architectural review in our communities. Just a reminder that when I do remember to hit the record button, you're able to go into our website to board training, lunch and learn, and then that is where you can find the catalog of previous months. July is actually on there now, and August will be on there, obviously, if you're listening to this. We will conclude our insurance series for the year at the end of September on the 29th, Tuesday the 29th, and it's going to be a panel of some of those that we've heard from thus far this year and talking about the different aspects of insurance in the community association world. So please join us on Tuesday, September 29th at noon for a panel, and if you have questions, you're welcome to email those in, and we will also send a reminder out the week before the event to get your questions as well. All right, dusting off your architectural review committee. Just a reminder about our hierarchy of authority, right? The higher the position on our pyramid, the greater the weight and importance of that document. So our laws and our statutes, federal laws, state laws, local ordinances, all have priority over anything else. And then our governing documents are our plat map, our CC&Rs, articles of incorporation, bylaws, and rules, regulations, and resolutions. And resolutions, remember, are just formalization of rules. So it's important. We're going to look, when it comes to architectural review committees, architectural control committees, sometimes they're called, we're going to start at the top with the local and state laws, excuse me, and then we'll look in some sample documents and see what they have to say. So what does the Utah Code say in this regards? Well, interestingly enough, when the head of the Utah Home Builders Association lives in a small HOA up in Park City, and they started charging exorbitant fees to their homeowners whenever they had an architectural modification request, then you get new law. And so in 2013, these limits on fees were put into the Utah Code. In 57.8 is the condo code, and 57.8A is the community association code for everything that's not a condo. And it's the same law in both places, a little bit different verbiage, but basically an association cannot charge a fee for plans that exceeds the actual cost of reviewing and approving those plans. So a plan fee, the definition is a fee that an association charges for review and approval of lot plans. So does that mean just when a house is built on an unimproved lot only and not all other modifications? You'll have to consult with an attorney about that, but we need to be reasonable in the fees that we charge And actually, our advice would be more associations need to be charging fees because they don't currently charge anything for the extra work that has to be done. So in the similar information in the Non-Condo Act and in the Condo Act regarding removing or altering partitions or creating aperture between adjoining units. So this does allow in both statutes that a lot owner may, if they own both, 2 units, and they share a common wall, that the lot owner may remove or alter the partition between the lots, and even if the partition is entirely or partly common area. So if you're in a Condo Act townhome style building and that adjoining wall is common area, then you're able to remove it per the statutes. And remember, townhomes in architectural style, so some follow under 57.8, the Condo Act, and 57.8A, the Community Association Act. More on that statute, a lot owner may not take an action if it would obviously be, is important, reduce the support of any portion of the common areas or another lot. Board may require a lot owner to submit at the lot owner's expense a registered professional engineer's or registered architect's opinion stating that a proposed change to the lot owner's lot will not, and then there's 3 items there, impair the structural integrity of mechanical systems, reduce the support or integrity or compromise structural components. So all common sense things. And then 4, the board may require lot owner to pay all the association's legal and other expenses related to a proposed alteration to the lot or building under this section. So it's allowed, but the requesting party is going to pay all the fees to make it happen. The Community Association Act does have fairly strict rules when it comes to creating new rules. And a design criteria is a rule. So this statute does apply, and currently as it reads, before adopting, amending, modifying, canceling, limiting, creating exceptions to, or expanding the rules and design criteria of the association, the board shall, at least 15 days prior to a rule change, give notice to all lot owners that there will be a meeting about the rule change and provide an open forum at that meeting for lot owners to be heard. There's no requirement that the lot owners vote. It's still a vote of the board after having that open forum, which was given at least 15 days notice. But then, if the board does pass a new rule, they have to deliver that to everyone within 15 days after the board meeting. So 15 days before notice and 15 days after to be able to give that kind of notice. And that kind of notice delivery is allowed in the Nonprofit Act and in our specific state statutes to be done via email or a note on a statement saying, hey, there's a new rule on the website. So notice for the meeting where it's going to be discussed and delivery of the final rule can all be done electronically as well. So let's look at some sample governing documents that we pulled from our several hundred clients, just for some different examples that what you might see in your documents when you're looking to learn more about what kind of architectural control, architectural review requirements are required. You will typically see an entire section dedicated to architectural review committee or Architectural Control Committee. And it's typically around section 8, 9, or 10 even. And it will talk about who's on the committee and how they get on the committee and are they paid and the liabilities and approval that's required. So there's another one in this document, Article 10. So we move on to some of the design criteria, a lot of associations are simply, they don't have a staffed committee, and most of the documents allow for the board. If you see at the bottom of that 10.1 there, the board shall perform the duties required of a committee if there is no committee. Our advice is don't have the entire board be an architectural control committee, review committee, but maybe a part of the board, that's fine. But where possible, spread the love of volunteering in the community and get volunteer homeowners to serve. So here's an example from a condominium declaration. It's dated 1982, so pretty old. And it says that no owner shall, without the prior written consent of the association, in each specific instance, make or cause any alterations, additions, or improvements to the common areas or any parts thereof. Now remember, in a condo building, you're going to have a lot more common area near your actual living space than you are, say in a non-condo building. Here's from a 1997 Provo condominium declaration, which says that no structural alterations to any unit shall be made by any owner without the prior written consent of the management committee. So the management, remember in the Condo Act, boards of directors are called management committees. And so it doesn't refer to an actual architectural committee in this document, but it says nothing can be done without prior written approval of the management committee. Here's an example from St. George, Utah. This is a mixed product. So there's condos, not condos, but there's townhomes, twin homes, single-family homes, multiple different styles of units in the one association. It says that members of the committee shall be comprised of at least 3 people, and the ARC may be designated and a paid agent of the board. And if not, the board shall serve as the ARC. So where boards and management committees can't be paid, except for actual expenses, but not for their time of service, ARCs can be paid, or, which is one reason why we encourage fees, is hire a professional, an engineer, an architect, that handles all your requests, and they will set a fee that homeowners will pay for it to be reviewed. Continuing in the same association, it talks about approvals required. Nothing can be done without the prior express written approval. And then it mentions that there's actual architectural guidelines, architectural rules, which supplement these documents. It continues and says that the ARC will render its decision with respect to an application received within 30 days. And this is also very common language that you find that associations basically generally have 30 days from the time they get an application to make a decision. It does say, however, that if the owner doesn't hear back within 30 days, there is not an automatic default approval. That the plans still have to fall in line with the design guidelines or design rules of the community. So this section ends saying if there isn't a response from the ARC and you know the ARC got it, so they sent it certified mail or something, then the plan shall be approved so long as the application plans and materials submitted do not result in the construction of a structure in violation of the association's design guidelines. So just because a timeline's missed doesn't mean they get to build something in violation of the documents. It does mean if what they've proposed is not a violation, then they have a right to go ahead if they haven't heard back from the committee. Very common language. I point out section 911 of this document because it talks about appealing any decisions. And by this association having a separate architectural review committee set up and organized and functioning, if the homeowner who makes a request does not like the decision of the ARC, a denial, then they have a right to appeal that to the board. And courts and judges love this also, because if the board is the ARC and makes a decision that the homeowner disagrees with, then their only recourse is to file a lawsuit, and that's expensive and clogs up the court system. So the courts really like to see an appeal body option within the association. So someone other than the ARC committee is able to appeal and hear. Now, the decision's probably going to be the same 90% of the time, but it does give the homeowner a second opportunity. Now, here's some CC&Rs from a Lehigh association. This is a master association, and there are multiple sub-associations in this community. These are from 2018, so we're trying to look at what are some of the current language that's being used. This is talking about makeup of our committee and architectural control, architectural review, design committee, all words that mean the same group. Says there'll be 3 people, and they don't have to be owners. They can be the directors, but this point we're trying to emphasize today, the committee may utilize professional consultants, including an architect, landscape architect, or civil engineer. It continues to say that no improvements of any kind, including without limitation. So it's just saying, here's some examples, and it lists lots and lots of examples. Changes to units, dwellings, recreational amenities, parking areas, mailboxes, fences, walls, garages, driveways, flagpoles, curbs, satellite, etc., etc., etc. All the landscaping. All those have to go through the committee, and the committee has to get, there in red, complete plans and specifications that comply with the design guideline requirements prior to commencing the work. So they can't just send a thing and say, hey, I want to build a shed in my backyard. It has to be a complete set of plans and specs according to design guidelines. We do see, sadly, that a lot of associations have their CC&Rs, obviously, because they're recorded, but no one knows of any specific design guidelines. If your document mentions design guidelines as a separate document, you need to find those. And if they can't be found, you need to create them. Of course, a board would be able to do that because a design guideline is a rule. And if you're in a non-condo community, you follow the 15-day notice, open hearing, 15 days delivery. So make sure you have those design guidelines handy. They're not recorded most of the time, just like rules and regulations, and so that's why sometimes they're lost in older communities. The approval procedure, once again, very similar. The plans will be considered delivered when received by the committee, who shall approve or disapprove the plans and specifications in writing within 30 days of receipt. In the event the design committee fails to take any action within the 30-day period of time, it shall be deemed to have approved the materials submitted, except in those respects that such material is not in conformity with the provisions of this article. So there's the timeline, but they still have to do it correctly. Then there in the black bolded, close to the bottom, it mentions, well, what if the city has a stricter requirement than the association? Well, then the city requirement has to be followed. And more commonly, and actually what happens is the association has a more stringent requirement than the city. You'll get homeowners all the time, they'll come in and say, hey, the city approved my fence. I went down there and said, it's fine. So why are you guys giving me grief over its color or the materials that make up the fence? Well, the more stringent requirement is allowed, and these documents point that out. So in that master is a condominium association, and their documents refer to architectural control for a condominium unit. And it says, no exterior changes whatsoever shall be commenced, erected, maintained, made, or done without the prior written approval of the board or the committee established. And then it talks about, by way of illustration, here's what we consider exterior changes: painting, landscaping, repairs, excavation, patio covers, screens, windows, doors, fences, the window air conditioners, fireplaces, skylights, storage buildings, solar collectors, shade screens, awnings, window coatings, tinting, decorative alterations. So some of these things are things that you wouldn't even think, well, they're not affecting the exterior structure, but they are affecting the exterior view and ways that people see that unit from the outside, and so it's generally going to require approval. And then it talks about that the board may designate designs, colors, styles, and models. And we highly recommend that if you're a new community, and you know, and townhome community, and they didn't do fences, but fences will work, well, develop those fence guidelines ahead of time, publish them as a resolution that this is the fence that's allowed, here's the manufacturer, here's the colors, and so that you don't have to have an application submitted for each and every request. Here's Townhome Association, once again, mentioning that the Architectural Control Committee need not be owners, and if no committee is appointed, it's the board's job. It goes on to say that in the townhomes, it lists a bunch of things that can't be done without approval in writing by the committee, and that a bunch of other things also shall be subject to prior approval by the committee. So Scott's going to jump in here, and here's all the great things about Scott. He's been here since 2004. He was about 4 years old then, so we're excited. He's almost voting age. So now Scott's been here for quite a long time. He knows our systems very well, and last year earned the PCAM designation. We're very proud of him. That currently serves on the board of directors for the Utah chapter of CAI, and Scott's going to go through and show you a couple more things about requests and how they work, and our new technology that we use here in our HOA living communities to hopefully make this job an easier job for your association. Scotty.
Thank you, Michael. I'm happy to re-record this for all of you.
Very happy.
I think we got a lot of good feedback about this, so it's good to get that information out there. The ARC process is one of the most important processes of a community association because it maintains the look and feel of the HOA and make sure that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing within the HOA as they're building and improving their homes by adding sheds, fences, that sort of thing. And so this is a timely topic. We're coming out summer, but we can spend the winter looking at our processes, how to refine that and make that better going into the next year. So the first question is, do we need to review every ARC request? Michael touched on this just a minute ago when we were talking about developing communities, and we look at this condo community when it talks about patio covers and screens. If you're in a new community and you get a request for a patio screen, a stacked condo community, patio screens, one of the things to think of as you're reviewing that ARC is the precedence that is being set. So what kind of screen are we going to allow, what colors, that sort of thing. But if we can put that together in a resolution and publish those rules ahead of time, after you have approved your first ARC, and all subsequent owners, as long as they follow that same rule and those guidelines, you don't necessarily need to change that or review that ARC. A couple other questions here. Are residents changing the look or color of an element? So like the front door, are they adding a fence? What kind of fence are they adding? That sort of thing, right? If there's not a material change to a look or design of an element, then residents may not need to submit an ARC application. So if you have a resident that wants to paint their front door and the door is currently white and they're just going to freshen up the paint with another white door, do they need to submit an ARC? I would say no, because there's no material change there. Now, if they're going to put in a red door, that is a material change to the door, and the association just needs to review that change to make sure that they're okay with a red door. Does it fit with the harmony of the association, look and the feel of the association? So paint a door but not changing the color, don't need to do that. If you're re-roofing the home and not changing the color, then an ARC isn't necessary there. Or replacing another tree from a tree that the HOA has already approved, has an approved tree list, you don't need to review that ARC because they're not making a material change to that landscaping element. Fencing, Michael touched on this one also. In townhome communities, it's pretty common for developers to put up wings behind a townhome, directly behind a townhome on the boundaries, but not enclose the backyard area of a townhome. If that does work, can you develop guidelines so that the ARC doesn't need to review those plans, as long as they're using white vinyl from a particular manufacturer and they're going to just tie into the existing boundaries? Do we need to review that every single time? Maybe, maybe not. I would say no. It saves you the time and you don't have to worry about it. Here's an example of a landscape design guidelines from an association. They gave an example of what their typical landscaping plan would be, and they give very specific guidelines. Plant materials should be selected from the recommended plant list, which you can see on the right-hand side of the screen. Landscaping should include foundation plants and to cover the foundation, and they give all these different guidelines. So the idea being is, hey, as long as you follow this plan, then we're not so concerned with looking at the specifics, but we just want to make sure that you touch this element, all of these elements laid out here, and you're using these approved plants, then you're good to go. We don't need to review that, and it saves everybody a bunch of time. Here's another association that they have developed fencing guidelines. They give a very comprehensive Q&A about fencing, and they illustrate the boundaries of where fencing can go. They indicate the material that will be approved, and they address both normal lots and corner lots. And so the idea being is, again, as long as you follow those guidelines, then you don't have to submit an ARC, because we already know these are what we can live with, these are approved, and we like the look of these plans in the association. So the ARC process. This is probably where the most frustration from homeowners comes. And so part of dusting off your ARC is looking at your ARC process and looking at how do you handle requests that come in. Are you waiting? Do you only approve them once a month at each board meeting, or if you meet quarterly, you're only approving them at the board meetings? That can be problematic if you have some of those guidelines that Michael touched on, that you have to provide an answer within 30 days. But are you really waiting for board meetings to approve all projects? If you have a ton of projects, that can take up a lot of time in your board meeting, and so then your board meetings may be unnecessarily long. We have, through our Vantica software, the homeowner portal that is really accessible for homeowners to submit their ARCs, and members of the board or the ARC committee can manage all the ARC submittals straight through the portal. It makes it really easy to streamline that process and get homeowners their answers and their approvals or denials or approval with conditions faster, so they can get on those projects and improve their home. So let's take a look at the homeowner portal and how that all works. Once you log in to the homeowner portal, homeowners can submit their project right from the ARC tab. It looks like the box moved here just a little bit, but if they click on this ARC request option here in the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the request. It asks which property, what kind of work is going to be done, provide some detail, their estimated start date, and any forms that the HOA needs to have the association, needs to have the owner fill out so they can properly review that ARC submittal. Once that is submitted through the portal, the homeowner receives an email saying, hey, we've received your application, and it's being sent to the ARC committee for review. If they have any questions, they'll reach back out to you. Here's the email from the system to members of the ARC that, hey, you have an ARC that needs to be reviewed. Here's a little bit about it, and the attached documents are there. You can either log into your portal and see that there, or they will be attached to the email. As you go in and log into the portal to look at these, if you, under the board tab, ARCs, if you click on this ARC button, it brings up a list of open items that need to be addressed. It gives you the homeowner a brief description. This paperclip is the attached documentation that they provided for you. So you can see that all there. You can see the open items, the closed, previously approved, and stuff that needs your action. Clicking on the hamburger menu on the far left, or far right, excuse me, gives you a couple options. You approve, decline, and message. So if you have questions about the ARC and need further clarification from an owner, or you need to ask a question to the community manager or the board, you can message them right through the portal. So here they have the community manager, the ARC committee. As you have questions, or hey, I vote to approve this, great, you do that there. Or, hey, I don't quite understand this aspect of the ARC. Can we get clarification on this? Does somebody else understand it? The color, that sort of thing. Is all done through here. Once you approve it, a letter is generated here in the system. A copy is saved on their file, and it is sent out to the homeowner. So here it gives you your architectural modification has been approved, a summary of what they submitted, and then the big note, please note that approval is given with the stipulation that any problems that arise in the future related to the installation resulting in noncompliance with the CC&Rs will be your financial responsibility to resolve, and the HOA will be held harmless from any future problems. It's important that you have this language in your approval letters. That way the owner knows, hey, we're giving approval, but that doesn't absolve you from maintaining whatever improvement, and so you need to make sure to keep that in compliance. And so that is just implied there, and it keeps the liability off the association. So there's a quick overview of the ARC portal. I know that there was a ton of feedback there from boards. They have liked it as far as being able to move projects along, getting answers to homeowners faster, and overall people are just happier with the process because it's a little bit more streamlined and easier for owners to interact with the ARC committee rather than waiting for the board meeting each month. So we'll turn it back to Michael for just some wrap-up recommendations here. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Scott. So read your governing documents. We showed you a lot of examples, but don't be confused. That may not, and probably is not, the way that your documents read. So read your governing documents, highlight the things that have to do with architectural review, consult with your association's attorney and your community manager, amend your governing documents as necessary, and or draft and adopt an architectural controls resolution, and make sure it includes automatic approvals like Scott and I have talked about, defines committee and defines the process and timelines, and then communicate all that great information out to your owners and your residents. It doesn't have to be complicated. The technology is there to help make it a little bit easier, but it does need to be done right and set up correctly to avoid lawsuits, especially when, or just to avoid, we have one association that we don't manage but we're familiar with up in the mountains that spends about $200,000 a year on attorneys to fight owners who build cabins and garages in the wrong places and the wrong way. And that's a lot of association money. If they maybe had a little bit of a better process, that they could definitely save that money. So, and your community manager is there to help you do any of these things. Can help you and make recommendations for amending the documents and drafting those resolutions. So if you have any questions or answers, please feel free to reach out to your community manager or to Scott or myself. It's Michael at HOAliving.com and it's Scott at HOAliving.com. No first initial of our last names for Scott and I, because we're old school that way. We don't do that. We're not going to do that ever. Everyone else we make do it, so I don't know. And just a reminder, next month is the Insurance Series Association Insurance Experts Panel. Please join us on Tuesday, 29th. And then underneath the TH there, the last one of 2020 on October 27th is Associations and Management of the Future. So that'll be a fun course on the last Tuesday of October. And then we take November and December off because of the holidays, and we start planning for 2021, where, Scott, we hope that maybe we can have in-person events again. But we do like doing the virtual things and recording them, whether we're doing them in person or through these virtual meetings will be something that continues to happen. So thanks for joining us today, and stay safe, and let us know if there's anything we can do for you.